Hello to everyone, my name is Margarita. In this video I will show you how to sew this beautiful and sexy lace bustier. The main fabric is lace. I recommend to use lace with small elasticity and not too thick. For the lining I use a mesh with very small elasticity. Boning, mine is 6 mm. Foam for cups, mine is 5 mm. Ribbon for straps, I use cotton with shiny thread, 2 cm wide. Bias cotton ribbon, 2 cm wide, under wires channeling 1 cm and under wires. You also need small buttons and of course pattern. I leave link below the video and let's get started. First measure the scale. If it's the right size you can continue with the pattern. The pattern doesn't have seam at front center, that's why I add 1 cm seam allowance, then cut all pattern pieces. Remove all seam allowances along the top and bottom edges of all bodice pieces. It's necessary because we have to finish both edges with bias ribbon. Cut the mesh pieces first because it's easier to draw. I cut it double because it's very thin, but if you use a thick one, cut only one layer of the mesh. If you don't want to be transparent, I recommend to use nude color fabric. Place all the pieces of mesh over the lace and cut along them. If you have a scalloped edge, you can use it for the top cup. Match the two scalloped edges and place the two corners of the cup into the lower cut part of the scalloped. Next, remove the inner and upper seam allowances of the lower cup pieces and remove the upper and lower seam allowances of the upper cup. Only the bottom edge of the cup should have seam allowances. Cut the pieces one by one and mark the centers. First, make the foam cups. Sew the two bottom cups side to side by zigzag stitches. Sew the top cup to the bottom two in the same way. Cover both seams with underwires channeling. Start from the seam of the lower cup first and sew as close to the both edges as possible. Cover the seam of the upper cup in the same way. Match all the lace pieces of the bustier to all the mesh pieces except the top cup. Sew them one by one along all edges at 7 mm. Place the lace upper cup into the mesh one and sew the entire bottom edge at 7 mm. Pin the two lower parts of the cup and sew at 1 cm. Iron the seam allowance to the center front. Pin the upper cup to the bottom and sew at 1 cm. Iron the seam allowance to the top. You can use a pressing hand for that. Next, cover the seams with bias ribbon. Open one edge, press with steam and cut it. Fold the cut edge to the other and press with steam. I recommend to use cotton bias ribbon because it's easier to sew. Place the ribbon along the seam edge of the bottom cup. It should be on the seam allowance and sew as close to the edge as possible. The seam finish on the seam allowance of the upper cup. Cut the ribbon and sew the other edge. Sew a ribbon along the seam of the upper cup in the same way and cover the end of the other ribbon. Iron all sides of the cups very nicely and prepare the straps. Measure the front ribbon 70 cm and cut 2 pieces. Next, attach the ribbon to the cups, open the lace and mark 2.5 cm from the side edge of the cup. Place the ribbon at small angle, so the inside corner to be outside. Sew the ribbon 5 mm from the edge. Pin the right side of the mesh to the inside of the cup all around the top edge and sew at 5 mm. Turn the mesh cup to the right side, open both cups and turn the strap to the mesh. Top stitch the ribbon as close to the edge as possible. Pin the 2 cups together along the entire bottom edge. Iron from all sides very nicely and make a zigzag stitch along the entire bottom edge. And the final result, neat and beautiful cups. Next, attach the lace pieces of the bodice to the mesh pieces and top stitch all edges at 7 mm. Pin the 2 front center pieces wrong to wrong side and sew at 1 cm. The seam allowances should be on the right side. Press with steam open and sew all parts of the bodice in the same way. Cut all seam allowances 3 or 4 millimeters from the seam and be careful to not cut too close. Cover all seams with the same bias ribbon as the cups and top stitch as close to the edge as possible. Make a small stitch to secure the edge of the channel in the cup area at 1 cm. Attach a strap at small angle on the wrong side of the back and sew at 5 mm from the edge. Fold and press with steam the bias ribbon. Put the entire top edge of the bodice into the bias ribbon and sew as close to the edge as possible. Finish the front center in the same way. Fold the strap up and top stitch over the ribbon to match the other seam. Next, draw and cut the entire cup area at 1 cm. Remove the seam allowance to finish with bias ribbon. Place the cup area in the bias ribbon and top stitch as close to the edge as possible. Both ends of the ribbon should be 1 cm longer. Press with steam the whole cup area very nicely. Measure the boning, make it 2 cm shorter than the bottom edge and place the boning in all channels. Iron the whole bodice and finish the hem with a bias ribbon, so sew as close to the edge as possible. Next, make a buttonhole. Open both ends of the bias ribbon and press with steam. Cut along the entire length of the outline. Press the two edges together, fold once more and sew the entire ribbon as close to the edge as possible. If you prefer, You can skip this step and use 5 mm wide satin ribbon or buttonhole band. Mark and cut to 5 cm. In my case it's 7 pieces, but can be more. Bring the two ends of the ribbon together and press with steam. Prepare the left back of the bodice. Mark the places of the buttonholes evenly and sew it one by one at 5 mm from the edge from wrong side of the bodice. And be careful to sew the two ends of the ribbon tightly together. Cover the buttonhole area with the ribbon used for straps 7 mm from the edge and sew as close to the edge as possible. The bottom and top edge of the ribbon should be 1 cm longer. Sew the edge of the right back in the same way. Turn the buttonholes right side out and press with steam. Be very careful that the wrong side is not visible from the right side. Fold the two ends between the ribbon and the bodice and press with steam. Try to make the corners nicely. Sew along the entire length as close to the edge as possible and do the same with the other side. Fold the ends of the ribbon to the wrong side and press nicely. Try to make a good shape of the corners. Sew underwires channeling along the entire bottom edge of the cup. Place it 5 mm inside from the edge and cut the ends 1 cm longer. Place the cup area to the bottom edge of the cup pin and be careful the ribbon of the cup area to be right on the underwire channeling. Top stitch as close to the edge as possible. This is probably the most difficult stitch in this bustier and I recommend hand stitching first. Make a second stitch along the other edge of the ribbon. It should be on top of the already existing seam and go through the underwire channeling. Put the underwires into the underwires channeling and you can see the difference with and without underwires. Make a small zigzag stitches at the end of the channels to secure and cut exactly to the seam. Fold the ends of the straps twice and sew as close to the edge as possible. Mark the place of the buttons and sew it. And the last is to sew the scallop. Make one stitch and repeat in the same place. And that's the final result.